Okay, you guys. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jenna Blackert,
And I'm Leonka Reina.
and this is the Hout Hustle Morning Show. Today, we're talking with Kat Schwarz, who is an investigative medium, and she is going to really take us through the journey of what. Sorry about that. I sometimes when I change up things, everything gets messed up.
You can start fresh.
Kat today is. No, I'm good.
Okay.
Pat today is going to talk to us about like her journey and actually connecting with Gabby Petito's mom. You may have remembered the big thing that happened with Brian and Gabby when Gabby was murdered out in the woods. So that should be quite the interesting story. But first, we're going to get started with a little update about our weekend and welcome everyone. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
at the beach
right.
house. This is the back of my living room at our beach house, and it's been a great couple days. That we came down on Sunday since my husband's running marathon. You know, he's training for a marathon coming in January, and so he likes to do those long runs, which are like 10 or 11 miles on Sunday in Austin. So I think we'll probably come back about Saturday. But we're just here hanging out and just in living the dream, you know?
It looks so fun. It
Yeah.
looks lovely. And you look so well rested, doesn't she, everybody? She looks so well
Oh.
rested and she's, really kind of feeling that super fun vibe and loving the fall. The weather must be super beautiful out there.
Yeah, yeah, the water is just perfect. I think it's like about 86 or maybe 88. And it is we jumped some waves for about a half an hour yesterday. I'm like, come
Good, have
on,
fun.
let's go jump some waves. So
Ah,
that's yeah, I've been really just living the dream today and
good.
this week. Yeah.
Good.
So
It's always nice to change everything up. Was there any new any new thoughts that came through for you, Judith? I know it's always good to change your scenery, and sometimes it does help our spiritual connection, right? To
yeah,
especially go jump
environment,
some
right?
waves. What a metaphor for some of the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. It's like, let's just go make fun of, like, you have fun with it, right? So,
Right,
anything new?
totally. Oh, well, I did actually get a new Joe Dispenza education. It's called
Hey.
the intensive. I haven't really totally, heard much new information from it, but it was fun to like take this adventure where I was changing my environment. Like he talks about, getting out of your body, your time and space and I thought, well, I'm changing up my environment. Maybe it's time to bring in some new education. But, I didn't have any like massive revelations from that meditation. I felt like my dragons were coming in. And I thought that was kind of really, in, we're talking with somebody I don't think it's next week, maybe next Tuesday, named Teresa. So I thought that, maybe it's
Uh-huh.
time. Maybe they're awakening again. So
I bet.
there. Yeah, so you might see some footage
That's
if
all
I just
good.
blur
It's
it
all good.
out, it just make it real.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for letting us share
You want to
that
do
with
some
you.
the moon is
Yeah,
gorgeous
it's
out
super
here
exciting.
that it's,
Yeah.
it's so nice to be with the
Ah,
stars and the moon and sometimes when you're in town, you just don't even get a chance to look up and actually enjoy it.
night.
Here it's like all over the
I
place.
know, because we have a lot
So
of we have a lot of light pollution. So looking up at the stars is one of my favorite things to do, especially out there at the beach. Dana says, nice and bright looking, Janet. Then Intellecti says, I made a few Eiffel Towers ice sculptures. And then Joe said, salt water is good for the body
mhm.
and soul. And Dana also says, I love dragons. Oh, we do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good morning, everyone. Today is October 15th, and this space weather news is a minor G class geomagnetic storm are possible on the
Ooh, that
16th
sounds
due
scary.
to a semi. I know. Not too bad, not too bad, but there was our super friendly sunspot, AR 3854, which launched on October. Deliver a glancing blow, they say. And then, of course, we have that
That's
anti-tell of
dangerous
the.
too.
it should make for some nice things. So we've seen
Mhm.
everybody. It was really cute. In Texas, everyone felt a little left out, or some people did. And so they got these markers and made these memes. They were like, I didn't see the Northern Lights, but here it is from my house. Like, and so they just put the colored markers above their house. But I didn't want to feel left out. So, because everybody had these really great photos.
Mhm.
Of course, remember, with those great photos, there's a lot of charged particles in our Earth's atmosphere. Protons, in fact. They also say that Nick James, the British Astronomical Association, photographed a tail pointing in the opposite direction. I can put that post on our Instagram. And the anti-tail image that they put up for us to see, but that is the comet Atlas that is still zooming around with us here on Earth. And then one more thing that I have, energy healing jewelry. And this comes from Energy Healing Jewelry to you. And she says, October 14th, who will show you that true love exists. The universe has made you someone who will make you fall in love with yourself too. This person is already excited thinking about the next time he will see you, he or she. And the universe has already made you someone who dreams about being with you. And this can also be you for you too. It can be something that we make our own selves very much in love. So just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was super beautiful and a little bit of mystic space weather news for
Yay.
you.
Thank you.
Back to you, Janet.
Well, what's with me is if you can get anything out of this, what would it be? And so
I love
I
that.
thought it would be fun to invite you, you to open the door with a question around that.
I love
So
that.
yeah, so just kind of think in your world, in your energetic space and consciousness, what is it that's or change, or what would you like to get out of today from this call, from this moment? Oh, that Kat just joined us. Let me go ahead and pull her up. There she is. Kat, you're muted. And I'm remote, by the way.
Hi, Kat. Dana says,
Hello, hi everybody.
good morning. Hi,
Good
Chica.
morning. Like
Hello.
it's funny you meet somebody and you then find out that this massive awakening, and then now it's a gift, which actually then connects with the soul. We were just kind of like engrossed. Are the one person from the summit that we've got to have back right
Good.
away. Big gap between the beginning and the end of the story, because I felt as if the story
It was a
wasn't yet.
cliffhanger.
It was just such a,
Yep.
and it was
It
just
was.
such an in-depth, gorgeous story. And then below this one, just so that you guys can put the pieces together. Story.
Yes, yes, highly recommend. If you haven't heard that, please go. The emotions behind it are all there, and it really definitely continues on with this conversation. So it'd be really fun for you. Go back and hear it, even if it's standalone.
And I like
Yeah.
to think that today is going to be far more on the
Woo!
fun, high vibration side of things. We got through the muck of the story, and there is light needed, but the darkness.
Exactly. Oh,
Born
I love
into
that.
dark circumstances because that's where we're needed, and we're here to treat us special. I just got off my coaching container call, and the message that call ourselves light workers. Yes, some of us are doing that in a professional capacity and are earning our living as such, and that's wonderful. And the fact is right where we can finally be our woo selves and flying our spiritual freak flags, and we're not going to get burned at the stake for it. Yay! We're fine. It's a wonderful time to be alive. And we're also subjected to a lot of hate and a lot of bullying and a lot of opposition, and a lot of stigmatization. And we're losing a lot of light workers to suicide and addictions. And I promised it would be higher vibe, and here I go. But I just want to remind us of the gravity of the consequences of not believing the truth of what's being presented in front of our eyes. With increasing, I literally had a fight learning the lights on. At my ring light at bedtime was always on. Up, I live in a lofted apartment, so I had to get to the loft, and at night after night, and I was blaming it on my kids at first, but my kids are only with me half the time. So then I was like, Mom, because she would play with lights. She had this light thing when she was alive. And sure enough, I affirmed to me my intuition, because she passed away on 9/4. And the moment I had the intuition that it was her, it was 10:49. And I was like, okay, Mom, I see you. And the steps every night. I see you. Fine, you're not dead. And this is how thin the veil has gotten. And my path there, and if you go back and watch the replay, was through mental illness. I was told I was bipolar. I was told I had to take mood stabilizers for the rest of my life, and that really any words that came out of my mouth once I was given the label of bipolar, it was like I was automatically suspect. Person that they had known their whole lives, who was very academically successful, because of this label of bipolar, I could be essentially silenced, or at least filter take taken with a grain of salt because of this label. And now certainly with what I know and teach now beyond, my spiritual awakening. And yes, I fully admit that a lot of what does that label really mean?
Well,
What
we don't
is it
agree with that here anyway. Yeah, I
I
mean,
know,
what you
not in
speak.
this space
Yeah.
to speak about, because it's
Yeah.
really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like these regular Western doctors, and then they make us feel like we're crazy. And, it's funny because I was also a family doctor. And then they were like, yeah, you should go through that. I just, I'm really here because I have other issues. And I just thought I'd bring that up because I feel a little like overly hyper. But it was
Is it?
just like, so funny that she told me, here, get some drugs instead of like go meditate, go for a walk
I wish
outside,
it
be
was
with nature. It's
funny.
like,
I wish it was
really?
funny and
Is
not
that
true,
really?
right?
Yeah,
It's
I know.
tragic that we don't teach breath work and meditation and hypnosis and Reiki and these interventions that are safe and effective before we give out pharmaceuticals that have horrible side effects and can be it just goes to show how not of God it is, right? It's not of the
Mhm.
divine, it's man-made, and it's rooted in capitalism, right? It's all about profits over people. It's a big part of why I left a profession in physical therapy, one of many. After my spiritual awakening was the realization that healthcare is a business. And I definitely want to go back to finish the point I started before, that even if you're not making your living professionally, as Leonka points out, if you're hearing my voice and you're in this space, you are a light worker. And every day that you get up with the intention of spreading smiles and hellos and open doors and maybe a friendly conversation and gratitude, you don't have to do anything formal. Really, what you have to do is be authentically yourself. And that is really brave in this society, because being authentic often costs you belonging. It costs you belonging in the larger group. And that's a cost benefit analysis you should buy into. Right. I think it was Brene Brown who said, fitting in requires you to, or I'm sorry, being authentic is the opposite of belonging, because belonging requires you to change who you are, or fitting in requires you to change who you are, whereas belonging requires you to be who you are, right? Be who you are so the people who are looking for you can find you. That's an Arlen Hamilton.
Right? Because there's only one of you. And
Aha.
One of you.
it's funny. I took a training and they said it's sort of like, okay, here I am. Let's cut off my arms and my leg and half of an ear, and then maybe I can fit in. And it was just such a great visual to be like, okay, why am I, having these judgments? And many of them are among that I've created myself so that I have to fit in.
Yeah.
So that I would put myself in this normal box. I think it's just such an important conversation, or anybody.
I see
Yeah.
Joe over here pumping his fist and giving hearts because I think he's really resonating. And I find myself lifting mine too. We all have this signature resonance, and that is a key facet of all of the different fractals that we are within this universe. And each one of us is a piece of that fractal. So we are absolutely meant to be here at this time on Earth. And with our key resonance, we talk a lot about that on this show too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the idea, that we are, we're here to this, right? That there's something
Yes.
inside you that you came to share, even if it's just
Yes.
that tries to leave the people in the world a little bit better than they
Mhm.
found it. That makes you so special. And don't ever that is, because the reason we tend to minimize it, it's because it's just who we are naturally. And it's old enough to have experienced that, it's naive to think that everyone else is like you. Actually, it's very rare to come across people like you, perfect in any way, shape, or form, but we do try our best, to better ourselves and help the other people around us and spread love and not fear. And that makes you really, really special. And yeah, one of the things I like to say, and the reason it's so important to be authentic, and it's very deliberately actually, by whether it was your family or origin or your society or your culture, this is your programming, and it's very, very effective programming.
I don't
right?
want it
So
anymore.
when you are able to turn to deprogram it, right?
And so are you.
Right.
And so is Leonka. So we've got
Exactly.
30 of them.
Yeah, we can help you with that, by the way. The people you're meant to attract are not the people in your family of origin again, whereas darkness, light needed the darkness, right? So it's often the people. I like to say with my family, I don't feel like I was given a family. I feel like I was given supposed to say these specific lines, and they better be of the Catholic religion, by the way. And anything outside of that script, like we're one big happy family, was penalized, very, very much so, in the form of trauma and abuse and neglect and verbal abuse and things of that nature. As a courageous person to stay this course, and I think I'm being asked to remind us all of that today.
Yeah, well, that's so beautifully said, and I think that everybody needs that. I was at a party this last weekend. We in Texas, so I didn't really think it was that dressy, but but although I finally got to a point in my life that I can totally be myself. I don't even know how that came up, and she just kind of was like, yeah, it's just her not understanding it at all, and I realized that people would, or even think that there's something beyond the three, what it means to walk around with judgment and narratives. It's just such a delighting conversation.
Exactly, to that point, when I first started practicing yoga, I wasn't speaking spirituality. I was still very much mired in my atheism and my mental illness, and but I started doing yoga because it was making me feel better, and the teachings and the energy and the vibrations, just the teaching. One of the three main teachings of yoga is non-judgment. The idea that I didn't have to judge me. It was that in and of itself felt like an awakening. Like, I don't have to judge myself all the time. I don't have to constantly be comparing and contrasting and judging. And because for most people, that's like a sport, which then of course projects outwards. And it's a prison, because you're not perfect and you have quote unquote messed up and made mistakes, but not in the eyes of the divine, not in the end. Why your judgment of yourself and others feels like shit, because it's not in alignment with your higher self, and all of feeling emotions like joy and freedom and passion and desire and enthusiasm and joy. Those you're feeling fear and judgment and shame and guilt, right? You can think of each of those emotions kind of like a radio station. If you want to hear what's on 107.9, you have to tune in to 107.9 and all of the other radio.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I just put out a post about your personal Wi-Fi. It's about calibrating and remembering to really calibrate. Okay, what frequency am I actually being to attract? Oh, funny you said that.
That's
okay, well, let's dive in. Let's dive.
I love it.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of cut off at where you finished up. Okay, I've met him and he did these mediumship readings, and then he told you that you were like him. And then there was a little bit about Gabby and Brian. And I thought, okay, we got to hear more about this. And investigative mediumship.
Yes. Ooh, I like that. I like. I get that the first time I ever said that I provide services to people who are gifted, not crazy. And that was just the most, like, it just rolled off the tongue. And then investigative medium, note to self. But yes, exactly. We left off pretty much at my November 7th, 2018, the day I went to a mediumship workshop, not because I believed in mediums, but because I didn't. And I was the one who did because, of what I felt, and the whole story. You'll have to watch the replay for the whole story. I'll tease that. But after that day, I believed not so much in myself, because that was the hardest part of all of this, but I really believed in him because of what I felt that day, because of the connection that was so real. It was just so obvious to me. They had never left me in the 18 years since my father had gone, and longer for my grandfather. And he specifically mentioned not only that I was like him, but mentioned specifically Reiki. So that was my first step, as I went and I got attuned to Reiki 1. And we'll talk about my offer later, but Reiki 1 in and of itself was so incredibly healing with me that within 3 years of being attuned to Reiki, I had left my career in physical therapy because my hands became so immediately healing, and I was facilitating in 16 years of prior practice. I knew I was a very good physical therapist, and I got very good results, but the type of results that I was getting after my Reiki attunement were magical miracles, really, in many cases. And I saw bodies, right? I brought my own conscious awareness to the fact that I'm not this physical meat suit and this fear-based, conditioned, overthinking mind, but I'm a conscious awareness of my mind and of this, and that this physical body is I have a right. It's my vehicle to do my work in this world. And, as I started to, and then what happened, I became attuned. It took from 2019 to 2022, I believe, to get fully attuned to Reiki Master of Masters. But even not only did my hands become so healing with the Reiki 1 attunement, but then as I started to, and then I became certified for Thai massage, and that, dove me into the Eastern healing world. And I attended an intuitive healing retreat in which I saw some really crazy, quote unquote, crazy woo things happen. But I knew that these were serious professionals and serious people, medical doctors, even doing spiritual surgeries, right? And buying fully into it. So the vibration of belief and growth. And, as I continued on my healing journey. And I started to realize that when people would come in for Reiki sessions, these words that I felt compelled to say just as directly channeled from higher realms. And I knew that because when I would feel compelled to say something, I would then grab a card deck and a card would fall out and the exact same message would be on that deck. Or I would intuit something quote crazy like Mary Magdalene was in the room. And then I would grab a deck, an angel deck, and Mary Magdalene was the top card. So I knew I wasn't quote unquote crazy. So these things started to happen. And then it really started with my own family. My mom crossed last year. My dad's been gone since 2000. I have many other loved ones on the other side as well. So because I now knew that I was, that even though I couldn't see my loved ones, that they were still very much real and here with me and able to communicate with me, they started to show me these outward signs that were just so obvious that I could capture them. They were license plates, they were business names, they were screenshots or video, or like what I was listening to or the song that was playing at this exact moment. And I started really developing a language with my family again. And it was so fun and healing. And and then I started to do it for my Reiki clients where, as long as I knew, because for me, the best analogy I can use for it is because I am in constant communication, not just with my higher self and my own spirit guides and the archangels and, a lot of different beings. If there's a specific being in your life that you want me to call forward, I'm going to need to know some information about that person before I can really. So that's how it started. And then because at the time I would watch a lot of true crime, I would, have an experience like I'd watch a Dateline episode, and then I would realize that the person that they were reporting on who had lost their life had been communicating with me all day long, knowing now the details about their life. Like, excuse me, probably my throat shut.
Like so much.
And while we have a break, Kat, maybe give us an example of like what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first time I would say I got a celebrity ghost. We're gonna say a little tragic case of a young Black man in Georgia who lost his life at his school. He was 17 years old, and his body was found rolled up into a wrestling mat. And very racially charged case. And his assailants have not been charged. And there's very little justice in that case. And there's so this is now 10. He's very loudly fighting for justice for her son. And so the case is ongoing in the news. And I was actually sitting with my mom that day, and my mom at that point was fairly had a lot of cognitive dementia-like symptoms from her Parkinson's. And excuse me. I was actually reading a People magazine about this specific case. The young man's name is Kendrick Johnson, and he lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And as I'm reading this, my mom starts talking about Atlanta, Georgia out of nowhere. And then I get a phone call, and it's from Atlanta, Georgia. And all of these things are happening simultaneously. And at that point, I was like, okay, hello, Kendrick Johnson. Information, except to say, I see you, right? That's kind of what it felt like. Okay, I see you.
And isn't
You're
that
here.
the first real big opening for that? Just saying that so other people can, if you're gathering some of this stuff.
Right, exactly. So that in and of itself, I think is powerful, just the I see you. And then who was murdered on a road trip, a van life trip with her then fiance, Brian Laundrie. He then fled and went to, showed up in his home state of Florida with her van, went on a month-long, it was a case that was in 2021 everywhere, including internationally. It was impossible not to hear about the Gabby Petito case because of the month-long manhunt for Brian, right? And so this case, but it was just impossible for me not to know the details, especially the day after Brian was found dead. So he was found dead, I believe it was October 20th of 2021. This is now October 21st of October 21. And I had watched with my vet, and the details were very fresh in my mind. And I came to my office and I was waiting for my Reiki client, and the body cam footage of when Gabby and Brian were observed having a physical fight. The police were called. There's this very haunting interaction on body cam act very much like abused women do, in regards to highly emotional, whereas he highly calm, and she's, don't get him in trouble, and I started it, and it's my fault, and taking a lot of responsibility, which was taken at the end of the interaction where they ultimately are released, and she's, she's going to be dead within a week or two. The one police officer, the training police officer, cases the woman lies, and then the couple leave together, and she winds up dead. He literally says what's about to happen, and sure enough, she lost her life to domestic violence. And so now I come to my office to do Reiki, and I open the door, and I live in New Jersey. So there's a New Jersey plate, and the New Jersey plate says Moab, Utah, UT. And I had just watched it this morning. Again, not my first ghost to show themselves to me. So I took a picture of it, and she said, "Holy shit." But that's really all I thought it was ever going to be. And then about a week later, I had an intuition to look at the picture again. So now I take out the picture, and it's a picture, the car that's in the forefront says Moab, Utah, and that was parked. But at the moment I took the picture, there was another car that was passing through the frame. So it had to be at that exact moment. And I look at it, and I see that there's a 3-1 on the license plate, and PCY is how it ends. And now I look at Gabby Petito's information, and her birthday was 319, and she was a Pisces. I have her birthday, and I have her star sign. And from that point on, the signs just started flooding it. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous. And this is what happens once I'm aware of a spirit and they want to get my signs come in. And I'm going to give more examples, like for regular people later, are so magical. But one example was I was walking with my fiance at the time, and we found I was hungry, and she independent before. And when we drove there, I should mention 319, which is Gabby's birthday, was also the exact same apartment number of my fiance. So it really it got our attention. An address. We went to this restaurant. Not only was the address of the restaurant 319, but it was like a college restaurant. And in the foreground after 319, or in the background, there's a drawing of an angel that says Gab P next to it. She had in her forearm. So
wow.
I
want to just say something before we go forward. So one of the things that Leon see the numbers, like the 111s and the 222s, and even if it's on license plates or wherever it is, we're very much aware when it's like we say they pointed it out. I mean, this could seem like serendipitous, which is also created because people didn't have a synchronicity at the time. So I just wanted to, as we walk through this further, just kind of have that in the back of your head, like when you're aware that that's on up. So I just thought I would put that out so it could be in their head while you're continuing as well.
Receive as well. I feel like being in your presence and having that, those strengths are, those gifts of the people around, you two together could really, we're actually bouncing off of each other. So just think about that, like when you're in forums like this, all of our gifts. So
it's because we're all one consciousness. So when we're in our intuition, which we are in any time if we're relaxed and happy and with our loved ones, you're in that high vibration, right? So you can trust those clues that come in. Exactly, Leon. And it started happening to such a degree that I actually opened myself up to an automatic writing session, and I asked Gabby and Brian why. And and it was interesting because I'm a native of Long Island, which is where they're from, where Gabby is from originally, and her mother and I are 3 months apart in age, a little less than 3 months apart in age. And but again, I didn't have any relationship with them prior to Gabby's passing. So when I asked them why, I'm in touch with Gabby's mom because she really needs these signs. They're going to give her a lot of comfort, and she's going to receive them in the spirit that they're given. And then number 2, frankly, was that I was both in a relationship that, it's a relationship that's since ended, and there was a lot of toxicity because there's a lot of trauma. I come from a very traumatized background. She comes from a very traumatized background. She's a Chilean. She was trafficked from the country of Chile in 1986 and was sold to an abusive family. Her adoption wasn't legalized. She's experienced significant, severe trauma. And to traumatized people, it's a very, very challenging relationship, to say the least, right? And which is to say that I wasn't judging the relationship between them in a way that others might, in a way that no one who's experienced severe trauma or trauma bonding or mental illness in yourself and others can really relate to. So there's a level of non-judgment that I bring to my work. I call it, through my work of compassionate healing services and the non-judgmental practitioner that I am, I'm trying my best to create the solution to these types of issues, right? Domestic violence prevention starts in preschool when we learn how to imagine in an emotional way. I graduated with a 4.0 through graduate school, and I knew nothing about emotional intelligence until I started watching things like Sesame Street and Daniel Tiger, right? That emotional regulation and intelligence and conflict resolution skills starting at those really young ages, we wouldn't have domestic violence and homicide rates to the degree that we do, right? So all of the souls that have made this sacrifice, and in many cases it's a soul contract, especially in this day and age and of the awakening, that mediums like myself and so many others can bridge those two worlds, where not only does it give so much solace to the people who are grieving these beings physical form, but when you, as Nicole now does, Gabby's mom, have such a real-time, daily, playful relationship where those signs are just coming in and it's them and they're free and happy, miss them, but it really helps. And it helps, and part of those soul contracts, I believe, for the loved ones left behind are the what gives you more motivation to look within or find what you can't see with the physical eyes, unless you don't learn from our joyous experiences as much as we learn from our pain. So
well, we just don't know any better.
Human nature is such that we tend not to.
Yeah.
So that was my first real inkling that, and attracted a high profile clients such as Nicole, who's I'll be honest, when we first started working together, she was not sure of how we of how we formed our relationship. My official story when I first met her was that I had reached out as a Reiki master to, felt for her grief. And, we had a lot of things in common as far as demographically and our ages and things like that. But, the reality is I sent her literal pictures of Moab, Utah, and that Gab P, on a chalkboard and in the mail to her foundation of gratitude. And she's been a huge supporter of
that's cool.
To the point where if you sign up for my mailing list and you get my PDF, she's the one who designed it in Canva, because I don't know how to do Canva, but she does.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
What
You
a
really,
beautiful friendship.
it seems like you,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think it's because of all of the, of all the mediums that have, that she's worked with and that have reached out to her. My mediumship style is cooler, I'll say, because I'm not just reporting the news that I hear in my head. I'm giving you proof. I'm showing you pictures. I'm saying, look. So I just did an investigation this week for someone you actually know from the blocks as well. She won a free reading from attending one of my workshops, and her mother, it was. I'll just tell you, I don't think her privacy would be violated. It was Alina of Go Happy Belly.
Oh, love Lena. Yes.
So her mother passed away in 1997 from stomach cancer. It's part of what led her on her path now to what she does. And so I'm doing this investigation for both of her parents who have both crossed over. And I'm sitting in front of my kid's school. This is just this last week. And I've now opened my energy up to this specific woman who passed away in 1997. And a car's about to pull out. So I let it go. And the license plate on that car says left 97. Like, as in left the earth in 1997.
Yeah.
That's how I heard it.
And then even cooler, I open up YouTube within a short window, and a video is being recommended to me that I watched like half of at one point, but I haven't watched the other half, and it's just like being recommended to me. So I start it, and the tarot reader immediately starts talking about the left hand and the right hand. So I get the message also that this woman was left-handed. So for one license plate to be appearing in New Jersey when her daughter's in California, that's giving me information like in a cheeky way, right? Like I have a picture of it. Like, she now has this like, the surprise and delight of seeing just how real these signs are. And now she's also giving me information about her handedness in one sign. Like, the divine is mind-blowing in the complexity. And I've many more examples I can share, and I will share if you're interested.
Will you ever, as you develop, do you think that you'll go to even the authorities, or what do you think you're going to do with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a delight. I wouldn't necessarily call the authorities as
who opened
I would say,
who found some, real signs that seemed
I mean, I
related.
certainly think it would be relevant in a case. I think I could use my
Mm,
gifts to confirm that that person is no longer Earthside.
mhm.
But I mean, I through another Blockster, there was she actually real time communication in which I felt like she and I were getting like very specific information that if it was ever
Yeah,
legitimized, right? If it's not
yeah,
something, yeah, I would be absolutely open to help in any way that I could, it being that
mhm,
Yeah,
legitimized.
I think
I
we're
have to
closer,
yes.
plug
definitely,
in.
Kat.
I have to plug in before you lose me. Hold on.
Okay.
Maybe Janet, when she said that you're newer on this, I don't think that you're fully
Oh,
newer is the real term, but
for sure.
exactly, right? And the universe, like you said, that part is newer as it starts to reveal itself and unfold in different ways that I do think that we are closer to in the way that the people, even the authorities, will be able to receive. You'll even see it in certain reporting. They'll even say that they've consulted, right? And get to the bottom of this. And I think in some ways they also are feeling called to investigate some of the ink that's presented and how they get the information as well. But I mean, lo and behold, I can tell me, pull that folder. I just kept being,
Mhm.
so I know that they are, right? Which is
Yeah,
why you'll have some people that stay on certain cases for
Yeah,
so
I mean,
long.
I definitely know that it is used or open-minded to it. Of course, it can be used in a court of law.
right.
The evidence, like
Exactly. That's
what
it.
I
Yeah.
love about the work that I do is there's no denying the
Mhm.
I pick up something that I'm cognitively downloading. That I have a photo of Moab, Utah with Gabby's birth date and star sign in one photo that had to be taken at. Let's go even a little bit deeper because this one truly blew my mind. And then I'm going to go back to how I unpacked it when I posted it on social media. There was not a saint. The traumatized woman who was largely responsible for a lot of the trauma that I experienced in childhood, which is to say that for my mom to be able to deliver signs of this nature, it's not like my mom was some saintly being on this earth, right? And yet I was absolutely mind blown. My mom lived about 10 minutes away from me, and my strange urge to go ice skating in the middle of the summer. And so I looked up the skating times, and the best place to do that was a place that was very close to where my mom used to live. So I took him to the skating session. And on the way home, we're now a literal 10th mile from where my mom, Rosemary, used to live. And I'm passing by this sign, and the sign is this huge sign, that this new apartment complex is opening, but they don't even use the word apartment, they use the word flats. My mom's name was Rosemary Flatley. The address of this apartment complex was 94 Rosemary Way. 94 was my mom's death date.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Her death date, her last name, and I've never heard the word flat used outside of Europe
Mhm.
to, so for it to say flats, and it was because it's a 10th of the mile from where she lived out, it absolutely blew my mind. And, and I posted it on Facebook, and I actually want to go, or, on Instagram, I want to go back to my own reflections of how is that even fucking possible? My mom doing this, right? Like, and the first is that, again, as we said earlier, death only happens to the body and the physical mind, and the mind, right? It's a physical death and it's a cognitive death. Who you are is eternal and never dies. There's life, and then there's life after life, and then you find the next life and you do the next life, and you find the next life and you do the next life, and you can never get it wrong because you can never get it done, and you'll never get it done, so you'll never get it wrong, right? That's Abraham Hicks language there, right? So that right, then it would, and the purpose of these signs, it's not like, I want to make it so clear, our loved ones aren't just trying to razzle dazzle us and say, look, I'm still here, right? How cool am I? It's no, awaken to the eyes can see, and that now that I'm not physical, I'm everywhere, and I can guide you in every moment, and I'm more with you than I've ever been, right? That's the purpose, right? And then
That's so true.
right? And then
Yeah.
number two, all come from the same source, right? It's how, what we talked about earlier, how, my fiance that had that crazy sign from Gabby Petito, right? Like, so we all come from that one source. So the universe can play the long game like no other. Like, there's no, and time is an illusion, right? So those things being true are how such mind-blowing synchronicities. And then, and then lastly, because we are energy, right? We're not physical meat suits, we're not eternal energy. We can manipulate the physical world once we're out of it through the birds that come across our path, or the videos that are recommended to us, or the apartment complexes that are built a 10th of a mile from from my mom's house. I mean, it is mind-blowing. Example with Left 97, that I have the ability to channel this not just for myself and my own loved ones, but for yours as well, once I have that
Yeah, that's
information.
cool.
It actually becomes leave me alone.
Uh-huh.
Like, I've gathered enough for your loved one. I need to
So
move
in
on with my
general,
life.
how do those work? Like people come to you and they person that died at this time
Yeah.
and then it just takes a couple days and you come back and you are like, here's the awareness.
So yeah, we start with
That's
a
pretty much how it
30-minute
works.
discovery call. You tell me all about your loved one. You tell me their date of birth, their date of death, what made them, what hobbies that you'll know unmistakably. That's my dad, that's my mom, that's my loved one, right? And then I take that information. I used to say 2 to 4 weeks, but I used to, it's so fun. I used to say 5 pieces of evidence were guaranteed within 2 to 4 weeks. And I have to stop myself from putting fewer than like, I really need to move on. That's when I start to like really schedule out the second call. But I delivered an album with like 98 pieces of evidence in it. Like they really do. So once I have that information, that spirit has no problem in slates. It's in the things that I'm reading. Oftentimes the things that I'm reading and the things I'm listening to match up. So I can take screen recordings. I can take pictures, I take screenshots, I take notes of things, that I'm hearing, and after investigation is complete, we schedule out an hour to go over it, and I, deliver the album to you, and the notes, and yeah, it's really
Uh-huh.
once you see how spirit communicates, you no longer need me,
Mhm.
because now you can open yourself up to this. It's never a matter of are my loved ones with me always. They are
Yeah.
you. They're
Mhm.
inside of you, right? Literally.
Yeah.
Like, so
Mhm.
yes, they're always with you, number one. And yes, they're always sending you signs, and not to razzle dazzle their continued existence. And the way that we get there is by coming into the present
Yeah.
moment,
Well, you're
right?
right.
That's
You
all
just,
the key.
yeah, that's always the key.
And
Love it.
I'm a spiritual scavenger hunt throughout the day. Like, okay, mom, dad, loved ones, show me yours. Like, because they're funny. Like, if your loved one was funny, your loved ones. My father had an obnoxiously loud sneeze, like to the point where I found him once in a 1980s airport that long before 9/11, when everyone was allowed in the airport, right? It was a sea of people in the baggage claim area. And I was like, how are we going to find him? And he sneezed. And I was like, he's over there. It was like my north days with that all the time. And there was one particular night where I was watching a video, and then I stopped it to put my kids to bed, and hours later, at exactly 12:45 exactly, and I knew, and the time was notable because I was born on the 12th of the month, and my dad's birthday was April 5th, 4/5. So at exactly 12:45, I remembered I had never finished that video that I started. At that moment, I sneezed twice, like spontaneously, and I unpaused the video, and the first just
I
Oh,
love
it was
that's
adorable,
sweet.
and it made me burst out laughing, and that's exactly the kind of relationship I still had. Jokes. He's always trying to remind me of how much he loves me. I mean, and honestly, because of my gifts of clairsentience, bipolar back in the day, because of that ability, I have, especially in times of real despair, been able to physically feel my father both squeezing my hands, and one time I was standing in the kitchen weeping, and I felt him put his arms around me to the point where I was able to completely relax my body into the hug. I mean, it was so real. It's so real. It's so real. It's so real.
I love it. It's
And that's
well, and I
really the
think it's just important.
is
It's so
disseminate.
important to share that so other people can be open to.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kat, we put together a special offer initially that to support, share it once again so that people can work with you. It's like a full year-long session. So I'm going to bring it up and
And
let
I
you go through it.
this is the baby much more affordable month group coaching program, which I'm of course very proud of. And it brings the coaching program is based on the 5 pillars of my process. What I've done here with this workshop series is take the 5 pillars of my process, which are essentially, the first one is kindness. Journey is often isolating yourself from the family. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick, right? So when you're in a family situation, as I was, it's very toxic and dysfunctional. Really having that ability to belong again, or be your authentic, is an entire module unpacking what that means as far as rebuilding community. I haven't, the last 2 lessons in that module are the God I Know Now and honoring your skepticism. So in and of itself, it's a meaty module, but that's module one. The second, it was what they were calling bipolar disorder, was actually CPTSD. It validated what I had
Oh,
been through was traumatic. And it was absolutely transformational. And then from there, we talk about healing the inner child, and developing an understanding of addictive behaviors and why they make perfect sense in the context of what you've been through, and how to stop self-sabotaging. If you go a little bit further down, it'll talk about stopping the patterns of addiction also in that module. And then, as one of the workshops here, intuitive eating. Oh my God, what an absolute transformation once I stopped dieting and I started intuitively eating and listening only to my body as the the authority that I needed to listen to, and I didn't need to fit into any category, whether it be BMI or on the weight, you know, or what size I wore, and how I felt was everything, right? And then we go into mindfulness practices, how to bring mindfulness into your everyday life. How do you practice this? What does it look like off the mat, right? And then in our last module, and, you know, reflected in this workshop series, is all about spiritual awakening 101, right? Nurturing your spiritual gifts. Find divine synchronicity. What does that mean? How can you utilize it? What does it mean to be an empath in this very, very energetically heavy world, right? How is that impacting your day-to-day anxiety, right? So this is as I said, the much more affordable option of learning my process over the course of a year. So each workshop stands alone, of course. There is a $47 price point per workshop, but just for you guys, I put together all 12 workshops. So it's the second Wednesday of the month from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern. That does include a Q&A, and you can submit questions privately as well. I can always get back to you if it's not within that time frame. And then it also includes a private one-on-one 30-minute Reiki attunement, which is something that I typically only do in the context of my group container, at a much higher price point. So this is your only option. This does not exist outside of this container, to get a one-on-one Reiki attunement with me. And all 12 workshops, even if you can't attend live, of course, the replay will be emailed. And you're going to month by month build on the process that brought me, I would literally say, from the depths of hell, because I don't believe in a hell outside of this earth realm. I think this is hell, where, you know, when you're stuck in that mind frame of that you're a physical human and you're powerless, or that you have to fit in with these people that don't care about you, you know, and don't have your best interest in heart, and you have to be this specific career to make your mom happy. That's hell. Or be in that specific religion.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas heaven is the understanding, and then the, you know, the mirror reflection outside of, wow, no, I'm one with the universe. I'm one with the divine. I am being guided. It's not to say life's always perfect and easy and happy, but it's guided. And it's been so transformational. And this offer, I think, is so reflective of the value that I can bring. I mean, it's honestly not uncommon for me to hear in one Reiki session, why did I get more out of that than I did 20 years of therapy? Right? Because we're not just talking.
Yeah. I mean, the testimonials are really quite extraordinary, both for Reiki and for the mediumship.
Thank you.
Um, you guys, if you really, you know, take time to really look at this, I mean, and it's very evident, Kat, that you are so present and engaged with people, and care. I mean, I feel like sometimes, you know, I know people don't know, you know, you, right? They're just like, I saw her on a podcast, you know, but
Right.
it's very evident after these conversations and meeting you in person that you really do just really care. You know, you're here to truly help people.
Mm.
So yeah,
And vice versa. I mean, truly.
I
And I think that's you know, why I felt called earlier to remind us all in this room how special that is, right?
mhm,
Because
yeah.
it is in those sometimes the smallest interactions. One story that it just always blows my mind when it comes to, you know, how your intuition, or this is more about intuition, but, you know, we've all heard those stories of people being saved from suicide because of a kind word or a smile, or, you know, just
Hmm.
one interaction that reminded them of the goodness and humanity, and that they were seen, right? Going back to that idea of I see you, right? And how powerful that is. Like, those examples we hear a lot, but this example will always stick with me, of intuition, where there was a story of a person who was, you know, planning to end their life that day. And they said to the universe that they didn't, or God, and they didn't even believe it, anyone was listening, but they said, if I'm not supposed to do this, I want to see someone standing on their head. That was
Oh
the
boy, right.
right. Well, sure enough, the person is walking through a parking lot and there's a woman there standing on her head. And he was so stunned by it because it was the exact sign that he had asked for, right? That
Mhm.
he was not supposed to end his life that day. And he asked her, what made you do that? And she said it was the strangest thing. I was like in that store over there, and I just kept hearing this voice telling me, go outside and stand on your head, go outside and stand on your head, go outside and stand on your head. So I did it.
Uh-huh.
And I know what it feels like to not follow those intuitions, right? There's a
Mhm.
discomfort around it, right? Those urges, those inspirations, those intuitions, when you're in your high vibration, it's really important to understand that. It has to come first, the alignment first. But once you're in alignment, your ideas, urges, inspirations are guiding you. They're
I
saying, go
know.
that way, go that way, go that way. And it's not often going to make sense to your logical mind, right? Like it doesn't make any sense for that woman to stand on her head, and yet her doing that saved a life. So don't
Yeah,
ever underestimate your power of your quote unquote silly ideas and
that's
urge,
so freaking cool.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's it's funny. We were me and my daughter were watching the Mendez stuff that was on Netflix.
Yeah.
And, it just made me realize, well, I mean, there's miles of made me aware and realize, but just the fact that, you could be so abused and feel so trapped that your only way out is murder. And
Mm.
I think that there's like thoughts like that. That's like, wow, as a culture, I mean, we really need some serious healing. I mean, I feel like I didn't even have abuse as a child, and yet, look at, me, seeking to play in the field, to, heal bodies, to, really bring this work forth because I think it's so important to help people heal.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
we're witnessing the consequences of our lack of healing every year that goes by, right? The
Yeah.
issue that I, that brought me to this work and that I'm ultimately trying to help do my part to solve, suicide prevention, overdose prevention, alcoholism prevention, right? Domestic violence
Yeah.
and homicide prevention. Again, this starts at the earliest possible ages with the simplest acts of love and kindness and emotional intelligence, and bringing more more into our school environment than just the ABCs and the one, two, threes, like life lessons.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, one of the things we lead with, and maybe I even said this on the last time we talked, is a lot of this world just focuses on the outer reality. And they think if they push hard enough and they, do as much work as possible, then they win and they become successful. And they don't really focus on their mindset and their thoughts and their feelings. And it's really truly a tragedy that there's not more people that really
I mean, think about
focus
it. You're
on.
you're a
Yeah,
human being, not a human doing, right?
yeah,
I love
I
that.
know, I
I
love
always love
that
being
quote.
remembering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, your worth is not tied to how much you produce or what you do. Your worth is inherent, right? Your worth
Hmm.
is a God-given birthright, and it's only your sick family and or society. We're all screwed when it comes to our society. Families, some of us some of us
Yeah.
get shake out a little better than others there, but yeah, but when it comes to our society and, we're all getting the same messages, especially as women, right, around subservience. I mean, we live in a
Hmm.
like one of the most triumphant moments of my life as a mom of two boys was when my then 10-year-old, he's now 14 and now his younger brother is 10. But he at one point looked at me very confused and he said, "Wait, mommy, are you telling me that there are some boys that think that girls aren't as smart or as important as boys?" And he was so
Interesting.
confused, right? He was so confused. And yet, that is exactly the messaging that he's receiving from everyone but me, or not everybody, and certainly not his father
Hmm.
either. But yeah, but it's an active act of it's not enough to not buy into these concepts. You have to actively deconstruct these concepts in yourself
Agreed.
first, right? In yourself
Right.
and then out and then others, because we don't heal others until we heal ourselves.
Yeah, never. How could we?
Yeah,
We're not
exactly.
available. We're not engaged in life. We're not
And I
present. We don't even know what the eternal present moment is then.
and I would
If
even
you're still
venture
living. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would even
Sorry.
venture to say, and be willing to be willing. Sometimes we self-judge and be like, I'm not healed yet. So then we back off from how we share. So that's not
Mhm.
what this is meant to be. It really is just a willing to be willing for that healing to happen. And then we can
Mhm.
go from that place of new awareness to share, new messages, especially with our youth.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And
thank
when
you.
speak about not being a human being doing, but a human being, and Jen, this point about the present moment, Eckhart Tolle, right, who wrote The Power
Mhm.
of Now, he sat on a park bench for 2 years and observed the
Yep,
ducks. And he was told every day, get a job. What are you doing? You're so stupid and useless. And he sat and he contemplated the universe and then wrote the books that he wrote, right? So it is in your
absolutely.
ability to connect to the present moment that your true genius can appear. And it's in any thing, whether it's people or your own thoughts that are just trying to distract you away from that or tell you that's not important, are frankly agents of darkness. Right? Because light workers, you do have to be discerning and careful of who you let in your circle. And we're the product of the 5 people we spend the most time with, as as they say. So be very
Mhm.
discerning about who's in that inner circle.
Yeah. Well, Kat, it's such a joy to interview you again.
Oh,
And thank you for continuing the story because I personally was like, wait, I want to know more.
Ah,
If you do want to work with Kat, I think it'd be a really healing experience. It's really a deep dive. And but I think it's such I think they can look at it like true psychotherapy with you,
yeah.
from our energetic way of doing things. So,
And we're gonna have so
uh,
much fun because they're channeled messages as well, and it's very high vibrational. And I'm not a
mhm.
serious person, and I promise I'll curse. And I mean, not it's just I
it's
like to
fun.
bring I like to make the inaccessible as accessible as possible, right?
Can we add a guarantee to this? So if they take class one
Oh yeah,
and they're maybe not
I'm not for
happy with
real.
it,
Yeah,
okay,
no,
let's
absolutely.
cool.
I absolutely add a
Yeah, then there's just a little less risk for some people. I think I
Sure.
Yeah,
need to
no,
see
for
them. That's
And there
sure.
is
cool.
the
Cool.
two-pay option. I don't know if you've caught that, but there is a two-pay option, so it makes it a little bit more easy to choose. So there
Yeah.
you go.
And we could put that more than 1 month apart, even since this is a year-long program. So
Yeah.
if you do need that or wish for that, then just email us at team@houthustle.com.
Yeah, we're gonna have so much fun. I would love to see anyone and every one of you there. And yeah, we'll really unpack this through the course of a year. And just the bonus one-on-one Reiki attunement in and of itself. The most recent Reiki attunement I did for my container, a woman said that she had been dealing with shoulder pain for 3 weeks and it disappeared that day. And then she was able to
Mhm.
immediately use the Reiki on her son who was having some behavioral issues, and it really calmed the energy. So
Oh,
it's a very powerful form of energy medicine.
yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much. And
For having
we
me, it was
will,
such an honor. I love
yeah,
both of you and your whole community, and I thank you for inviting me back. Wait,
yeah. Well, I'm
tell
sure
more.
you'll be back at some time again because
So
we love having you.
Missy is asking, tell us more about the Reiki attunement process.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
have time for me to do so?
yeah, yeah. Tell us a little
Yeah.
Yeah,
bit.
So
quickly.
Yeah, Reiki attunement is very quick, actually. In that 30-minute time together, less than 3 minutes or so will actually be spent on the physical attunement. I will be doing the attunement on, I use a bear as a stand-in for you. You basically meditate and receive. It's a very simple process. And then I'm going to teach you how to use it on yourself and others, where your chakras are, where to place your hands, answer any questions you have about Reiki and its origins. It'll be a beautiful private session that you'll walk away from with the capability not just to heal yourself, but others. Your hands immediately become healing channels of Reiki. Once you're attuned to Reiki 2, you can send energy at a distance. But for Reiki 1, it's healing for yourself and for others. So it's Reiki 1, Missy.
Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, so it's attunement or a reattunement. Even if you're already attuned to Reiki, come on back for a reattunement. We'll Jiffy Lube you up.
Very nice.
Okay, I
Love
hope
it.
that
Thank
I
you
answered
so
your
much.
questions. All right, thank you. Thank
Thank
you all.
you.
I hope to
Thank
see
you,
you.
everyone.
Okay.
Uh, thanks, Kat. And thanks,
Dennis.
everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. You guys, just a reminder, we'll be back on Thursday. We're having Aurora Luna Star back. It's an all-new show, and she's going to take us deeper in the depths of some of her work and some of those starseed blueprints. We're going to really bring that forth and forward. So it's a little bit different conversation, less channeling, more starseed ascension talking.
Yeah,
it should
and
be
then
great.
next Tuesday we'll have Teresa Wen. She'll talk to us about dragon communication. It's going to be really in depth, a whole new type of conversation, and just the work that she's been working on directly with her mentor, who will eventually come back to join us, which was Kat Howe. And so she is a direct mentee from Kat, and so just very, very fun new conversations happening all this month and into next month. So be sure to join us Tuesday and Thursday.
Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Thank you, guys. If you are ever looking for a package, it's always either in the email or below where you're watching, whether on YouTube or and on a page. So lately they will be on YouTube though. So that's it. The lounge is today. We'll see you at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Have a great day.
Good one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.